Hi, in this video we'll be looking at the whole question of how to evaluate the information that you find on a website. Is it true or not? Is it reliable? Can you trust the information that you're looking at? And how would you tell? How would you know? So let's look at a website, and this website is all about the world's first male pregnancy. And our question is it a hoax or is it a fact? So here we have the website, RYT Hospital. At the bottom it says, copyright 2001, male pregnancy was made possible by RYT Hospital, Duane Medical Center, and the GenoChoice Institute. So all of this sounds quite authoritative, quite scientific. There's a cover from Time magazine, which is a well-known publication, with a question mark. Is he the man of the year? He certainly looks pregnant. You've got a section on media coverage, Time magazine, CNN, Egyptian Weekly, Yahoo, USA Today. So it looks like it's corroborated from different sources. So just looking at the website, and the first thing you should do is kind of just have a look at it and try to evaluate what you can make. What is being claimed? Well, it's being claimed that a man is carrying a baby. And that's obviously, scientifically, it's possible. You could implant an embryo in the abdominal cavity of a male. A man could certainly carry a baby and then deliver by cesarean section. According to Wikipedia, this has never been done because it's just too risky. Men's bodies are not kind of designed for that kind of thing, and it would just be too risky. But hey, what do I know? Well, let's look at it. And it's very useful to have some kind of routine, some kind of method to help you detect whether something is fishy. Is it true or is it not? And the tool we use at Radin is called CARP detection. And what we want to look at is four aspects: the currency, the authority, the reliability, and the purpose or point of view, C, A, R, and P, to find out whether it's fishy or not. So currency, well, this refers to how up-to-date something is, how current something is. And sometimes this is very important. In science, for example, where knowledge is advancing every year, things can rapidly get out of date. Theories, ideas can be way out of date. So if you're looking in an encyclopedia from the 1950s, your facts about nuclear physics might be way wrong because of all the stuff that's been discovered after that date. Some information doesn't stale. So, for example, if you want to find out who the King of England was in 1801, that hasn't changed in a long time. So, that kind of fact you can find out in quite outdated journals or encyclopedias and stuff. But currency can be important, that things are up to date, like who is the world chess champion? Well, if you're reading a book from the 1940s, it will be very different to today. So you need to look at currency. Is the information up to date, and is that important or not? Authority refers to the author. So the author can be a person or it can be an organization. And you need to look at the reputation of that person. What are they known for being an expert in the field that they're talking about? Or not. So if the author, for example, is a Harvard law professor, they presumably know quite a bit about the law, but they don't necessarily know anything about pop music or fashion advice or nuclear physics. So you wouldn't consider them an expert outside of their field. So you need to bear that in mind as well. An author can be considered an expert if it's their field. But you also need to look at their reputation. You need to Google them. Type in their name or the name of the organization, the publisher, and find out what the reputation of the publisher is or the author. Are they known to be an expert in their field, or are there problems around their views? Are they horribly controversial? In which case, maybe they're not right all the time. So you need to Google them to find out what the reputation of the author is. Also, look at the publisher, not just the author, but the publisher, or where you don't know who the author is, look at the publisher, which organization is bringing it out. Then the R in CARP stands for reliability. And this is all about the content, the information itself. Is there evidence for this information? Does the article supply that evidence? Does it give references where it got the information from? Is it quoting other people, other experts? And if you Google the information itself, are you finding this corroborated? In other words, is it supported from other sources? Or is this the only source for that information? A lone voice can be correct. But the more people are supporting an idea, are corroborating an idea, the more sources there are, then the more likely it is that it is correct. Finally, the P stands for purpose or point of view. And this is all about bias. Is someone have they got an axe to grind? Is this article coming out because they're trying to peddle something? Either it's a commercial concern, trying to sell you something, and therefore they're trying to sell you the idea that this thing is good. For example, an article about how good sugar is for you, and that article has been paid for, is brought out by a sugar company, or articles saying that aspartame is not dangerous, being promoted by companies with an interest in doing that. Or you have political organizations bringing out articles in favor of their political ideas. In other words, it's based on opinion, a point of view, rather than on facts. And what is being said cannot necessarily be trusted because of that. And then, of course, you've got to take currency, authority, reliability, and the purpose or point of view and put them all together. Sometimes, for example, something might not be current, but it could still be correct. Or maybe the author is an expert in the field, but their point of view seems to be biased because they're linked to some kind of political agenda. There's some kind of agenda going on. Perhaps the data is corroborated, but it seems to be corroborated by a lot of sources, a lot of authors who are somewhat dodgy. And you can see that there is some kind of agenda going on. So trying to unpack all of this is difficult. It's not easy, and it takes a lifetime of work to get better at it. You can't expect to be able to detect whether something is true or not, when you're in grade 9, when adults really struggle with this. What you can expect is that you're going to get better at it over time. What you need to do is kind of engage with everything that you read. Look at it, examine it, and do the fact checking. So look at the currency. What date is it? Does that matter? Look at the author. Google them. Who are they? Are they kind of reliable? Look at their purpose, what agenda, the secret agendas they might have, political biases, or they have a particular belief. They might be a religious fundamentalist, for example. And their views are on abortion, and you can see that it's colored by their political views and might not be that factual because of that. Or, whatever the case. Have a look at the data itself. How reliable is it? Is it being corroborated by other sources? Or is this are they the only source saying something? Is there evidence being presented, or is this just a matter of opinion? You've got to look at all of these things together, and sometimes they kind of clash. Someone who's otherwise reliable and an expert in the field might be swayed by a political agenda, or what they're saying might be somewhat out of date, and new evidence might have come forward. So you need to kind of look at all of the things holistically, look at them all together, rather than just saying, oh, this is not current, it's out of date, therefore it must be not factual. Well, maybe not. Maybe other things in that case are more important than just the currency. Even unreputable authors sometimes can be right, and reputable people might be wrong. Albert Einstein was wrong about quantum physics, for example, and he was the foremost physicist of his day. But an expert is far more likely to be right than someone that you just take off the street. So let's start by breaking down each of those. Let's look at the C for currency first. Well, if you look at the bottom of the copyright, it says 2001. So obviously that's like 20 years ago now, and it is quite out of date. But this says the first male pregnancy. So it could have happened in the year 2001, or it could have happened in the year 1932. It would still be the world's first pregnancy. So in this case, I would actually say currency doesn't matter. And I would go on to the next one, which is the author. Now, to find out about the author, we need to start Googling. You can't just look at the page and tell. You've got to find out what the reputation of the author is. So first of all, who is the author? Now, just as the date you often find at the bottom of the page, you can see right at the bottom there's the copyright. Sometimes the date is at the top, just under the heading of the article. And the same with the author. Very often an author's name will be just under the title of an article, for example, or right at the bottom in a sort of an about section. So can we see an author here? Very often websites don't have authors quoted. So you need to look at the organization. What publisher brought this out? Well, the closest thing I can find here is RYT Hospital. So let's Google them. So when I type it into a search engine, RYT Hospital, I go down a few items and I've got Zoom info, for example, which basically gives me contact details. And that's just basically pulling it off the website itself. So you sometimes have to go down a bit. But the fourth one down, Katrina Steiner ePortfolio on Google, it says listed in the Museum of Hoaxes as a hoax, and is said by the New York Times to be a fictitious site. So there you have it. I mean, we've exposed the hoax, and it didn't take us that long. If you click on that link, it basically tells you that the author is a guy called Virgil Wong, and his website, he seems to be linked to shows, and it's something around the fictitious hospital. He's been leading concurrent careers by developing one of the nation's leading medical institution websites, while also creating award-winning net art and installation projects based on a fictitious hospital. So this is kind of like a work of art, if you like. He's created this good-looking hospital website as a work of art. So that's the author. We've got an author. It's Virgil Wong, and he's created this as a work of art. But let's take it a little bit further. Let's see if we Google the content, if we try and fact check the content, if we come up with the same results. Because this website might be incorrect, it might be a hoax, but maybe male pregnancy isn't a hoax. So if I start with Wikipedia, which is quite an authoritative source, it says male pregnancy is the incubation of one or more embryos or fetuses by organisms of the male sex in some species. Most species, it says, have sexual reproduction where females produce larger gametes, so ova, and males produce smaller gametes or sperm. In nearly all animal species, offspring are carried by the female. Notice it's nearly all. But in fish of the family, pipefish and seahorses and sea dragons, the males perform that function. So it is possible in the animal world, but if you go through the whole article on Wikipedia, it does not mention human males. So there's nothing here about a male pregnancy, and that should raise suspicion because Wikipedia is an encyclopedia. If there had been a male pregnancy, I mean, way back in 2001, then surely it would be on Wikipedia that a man had done it. I know that there are competitions with prizes offered for this, and no one's claimed the prize yet. So let's dig a little bit deeper. So now I've gone to Snopes.com, and Snopes is a fact-checking website, and it says world's first male pregnancy, status false. So that again rings flags. And if you look at that, it says, it talks about Malepregnancy.com, that's the site we're looking at. Mr. Li Ming Wei, that's the RYT hospital one. And it goes down and it says Li Ming Wei and his collaborator Virgil Wong on the web.